Hi guys, today we are going to see how two best friends turned into enemies. I am talking about Israel and Iran. Let's understand the full story. Before 1979, both countries actually had a strong relationship. They traded oil, worked together on military operations, and even shared intelligence. It wasn't public, but behind the scenes, they were close allies. In fact, Iran was one of the first Muslim countries to recognize Israel. So what changed? Here comes the turning point. The Iranian Revolution in 1979. Iran's government completely changed and a new leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, came to power. He declared Israel as an enemy country and immediately cut all ties. This is where everything changed. After that, Iran began supporting groups that opposed Israel. On the other side, Israel started seeing Iran as its biggest threat, especially because of concerns around nuclear development. From this point onwards, both countries didn't fight directly. Instead, they started indirect attacks, known as proxy wars, supporting different sides in conflict to weaken each other. And that's how two countries that were once allies slowly became one of the biggest enemies in the world today. Now, we all have one question. After a regime change, usually a new leader tries to maintain good relations with other countries and make their nation strong. But in this case, the exact opposite happened. When Ruhollah Khomeini came to power, he declared Israel as an enemy country. Why did this happen? There are four main reasons, guys. Let's see them one by one. First, the first one is religious ideology. Khomeini believed that Israel was an illegitimate state because it occupied land that he considered to be Muslims' land. For him, opposing Israel was not just political, it was a religious and moral duty. Second, anti-West mindset. Before 1979, Iran had very close relations with the United States. But after the revolution, Khomeini strongly opposed Western influence. Since Israel was a close ally of the US and seen as a symbol of Western power in the Middle East, opposing America also meant opposing Israel. Third, the rejection of the previous government. The former ruler, the Shah, had friendly ties with Israel. Khomeini wanted to completely break away from the old system. So he reversed many of the Shah's policies, including the relationship with Israel. Fourth, the power and influence in the region. By taking a strong stand against Israel, Iran gained support from many Muslim groups and positioned itself as a leader in the Middle East. This helped Iran increases its influence and became a major regional power. So it wasn't a sudden decision or a single reason. It was a combination of ideology, politics, and strategy that turned the Israel into Iran's biggest enemy. Long before Ruhollah Khomeini came to power, Iran was not like today. It had a different leader and a different direction. In 1953, Iran had a democratically elected prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh. He made one bold decision. He wanted Iran's oil to be controlled by Iran itself, not by foreign countries. But this decision created a huge problem. The United States and the United Kingdom were not happy because they had strong interest in Iran's oil. So, in a secret operation, they supported a coup and removed Mossadegh from power. After that, they brought back the Shah, a king who was very close to the West. Now, this is where the real tension started. The Shah ruled Iran with strong support from the US. But inside the country, many people were unhappy. There were restrictions, lack of freedom, and even reports of arrest and torture by secret police. At the same time, Iran was becoming more westernized, which made religious groups and traditional people feel that their culture and identity were being lost. This anger slowly kept building for years. Then came 1979, the turning point. A revolution broke out and the Shah was removed. That's when Ruhollah Khomeini came to power. For him, the United States was not just another country. He believed that America had controlled Iran's politics and supported an unpopular ruler and influenced the country in the wrong way. Because of this, he strongly opposed the US and even called it as the Great Saturn. And since Israel was one of the America's closest allies, it also became an enemy in Iran's new vision. So this wasn't a sudden hatred. It was the result of years of political interference, public anger, and a complete change in ideology. And that's how the foundation of today's conflict between Iran, the United States, and the Israel was built. But the story doesn't end there. Even though Israel and Iran became enemies, after 1979, they didn't go into a full direct war like traditional countries. Instead, their conflict took a different and more dangerous form. This is where the concept of proxy wars began. Very important. Instead of fighting each other directly, both countries started supporting different groups and forces in the Middle East. Iran began backing organizations that opposed Israel and providing them with funding, weapon, and training. On the other hand, Israel started targeting Iranian influence wherever it grew, especially in countries like Syria. This created a shadow war, a conflict that is not always visible but constantly active. Over time, this indirect fighting became more intense. There were cyber attacks, secret operations, and even targeted strikes. Many times, these actions were not officially accepted by either sides, but everyone knew what was happening behind the scenes. But things became even more serious when the nuclear issues entered the picture. Iran started developing its nuclear program, claiming that it was for the peaceful purposes like energy. However, many countries, especially Israel, believed that Iran could use this program to build nuclear weapons. For Israel, this was a red line. Israel has always been a nuclear Iran as a direct threat to its existence. Because of this, Israel has taken several steps to slow down Iran's nuclear progress. There have been reports of cyber attacks on nuclear facilities, mysterious explosions, and even the assassination of key scientists. This increased the tension to a completely new level. Now, this is no longer just about ideology or past history. It has become a matter of national security and survival for both sides. At the same time, the conflict is not limited to just these two countries. It is connected to global politics. The United States has always supported Israel, both politically and militarily. On the other hand, Iran has built relationships with other powerful players and regional groups. This has turned the conflict into a much bigger geopolitical issue involving multiple countries and interests. Because of this, even a small incident between Israel and Iran has the potential to create a large scale regional or even global crisis. In recent years, the situation has become even more tense. There has been direct attacks, drone strikes, and increasing military action. The line between indirect conflict and direct confrontation is becoming thinner. Now, if both have problem, why don't America can repeat same like they did in 1953 to remove Mossadegh? Now, you might wonder if the United States could remove a leader like Mossadegh in 1953, why couldn't it do the same with Ruhollah Khomeini? At first, it may look simple, but the reality is completely different. Back in 1953, Iran's system was not very strong. Power was divided, and the United States was able to influence key people inside the country. That's how Mossadegh was removed through a secret operation. But by 1979, everything had changed. This was not just a political shift. It was a massive revolution supported by millions of people. The entire system was rebuilt and a new government was created with strong internal control. Now, removing one leader was no longer enough. On top of that, Iran had learned from its past. It became more cautious, more defensive, and more resistant to foreign influences. Any attempt from outside world would not remain a secret anymore, and the risk became much higher. If the United States tried something similar again, it could trigger a major backlash, not just inside Iran, but across the entire region. What was once a silent operation could now turn into a full scale conflict. So the reason is simple. In 1953, Iran was easier to influence, but after 1979, Iran became a system that could not be easily controlled from the outside. That's why history didn't repeat itself. Iran is powerful, but it is not strong enough to fight the United States in a direct war. The US has a much stronger military and global presence. If Iran attacks directly, it could lead to a full scale war, which would be very dangerous and costly for Iran. So instead of attacking, so instead of taking that attacks or maybe the risk, Iran follows a smarter strategy. It uses indirect warfare, also called proxy war. This means Iran supports groups like Hezbollah and Hamas and Houthis. These groups can fight on the ground, while Iran stays in the background. This gives Iran two advantages. It can put pressure on its enemies and at the same time avoid direct war with the US. So Iran's goal is not to win a big war. Its goal is to slowly weaken its enemies without risking its own survival. Thank you guys. I think you enjoyed this video. Give me your support. Until then, it's bye from Bharat. Bye bye. Have a nice day.